Hello everyone, myself Devaki Prasad H, Assistant Professor, Ananya Institute of Commerce and Management. Today I am going to explain the concept of hire purchase system. Hire purchase system will come in the Financial Accounting 1. So I am going to discuss the meaning of hire purchase system and features of hire purchase system. A trader can sell the goods either on cash basis or credit basis. In case of cash basis, the purchaser has to make the payment immediately, and in case of credit basis, the payment will be postponed for the future date. So if payment is made at a time, that we call it as a credit sales. In case the credit payment is made in a part by part, in an installment basis, that we call it as a hire purchase system. So hire purchase system will come when the payment is made in a part payment. So we call it as an installment payment. So hire purchase system is a system where the payment will be made in a part and the seller will transfer the goods, but he does not transfer the ownership of the goods. In this we call it as a hire purchase system. So let me explain with the example. There are two parties, as we know, Sita and Geeta. Sita is selling the goods to the Geeta. Geeta tells that she is going to make the payment, but she is going to make the payment not immediately, but in a part. So what Sita says, if you are going to make the payment now or in lump sum, you have to pay 45,000, or if you are going to make it in a part, you have to pay 50,000. This choice she is going to give to the Geeta. Geeta says, yes, I am going to make the payment in a part, I am ready to pay 50,000. Here what happens? Seller Sita is transferring the goods to the Geeta. Geeta is making the payment in a part, so she is not making the payment immediately. So here she has to make the payment in part by part. She has agreed to pay 50,000. That 50,000 she is going to make a payment in 5 parts. 5 parts means 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Sita transfer the goods but does not transfer the ownership. The ownership is with only Sita, it is not with Geeta, it has not been transferred. Geeta will get the ownership only at the time of last installment amount. When she completes his payment of installment of 50,000, the ownership will be transferred. So in case Geeta to stop payment or she default payment, the Sita has the option to take back the goods from the Geeta. This system, this type of transaction we call it as a hire purchase system. So the main difference between the credit sales and hire purchase system is ownership is not transferred at the time. In case of credit sales, ownership will be transferred. In case of hire purchase system, credit sales will not be transferred, and the payment is paid in a lump sum in case of credit sales, but in a hire purchase system the payment will be made in a part by part. So as we know, there are two amounts, one is 45,000, another one is 50,000. 45,000 is the amount which Sita says to the Geeta that if you are going to make a payment now. If you are going to make the payment delay, you have to pay 50,000. Two amount is there, 45,000 and 50,000. Fine, we will discuss later on what is that concept. Now there are two parties, as we know, Sita and Geeta. So in the normal credit sales, Sita and Geeta we call it as a seller and buyer. The person who transfer the goods or who is the owner of the goods we call it as a seller, and who receives the goods, who makes the payment we call it as a buyer. But in hire purchase system, we are going to call them as a hire purchaser and hire vendor. Here what happened, Geeta is there na, she has the option to either to purchase the goods or hire the goods. She has the option. What option? If she makes a complete payment, it becomes a purchase of the goods. If she going to make a payment in a part, and if she stop payment, that we call it as a hire of the goods, hire purchase. So here hire purchase comes, there is an option to the buyer either to hire it or purchase it. If she completes this installment, she becomes the owner and it becomes a purchase of the goods. If she does not payment currently and she default in payment, it becomes a hire. She is taking the goods on a hire basis or on a rental basis. So what amount she has paid till that will be treated as a hire charges. So this option is there with the Geeta. So two parties is there, Sita and Geeta, seller and vendor, but in hire purchase system we call it, and we are not going to call it as a seller and vendor, seller and buyer, we call it as a hire purchaser and hire vendor. Hire purchaser and hire vendor. Hire purchaser is a person who obtain the possession of the goods from the owner of the goods. Hire vendor is the person who sells the goods under hire purchase system. So there should be a two parties. One is seller and buyer, but we are not going to call it as a seller and buyer, we call it as a hire purchaser and hire vendor. And the purchaser has the option either to purchase the goods or hire the goods. If she is going to make complete payment, it becomes a purchase. If she is going to default the payment, it becomes a hire. So what amount she has paid till date, it will be treated as a hire charges, and the ownership will be transferred only at the time of complete payment. As I told, there are two amounts, one is 45,000, another one is 50,000. That 45,000 is the actual price of the goods. This is the price at what the Sita is ready to sell. So that price we call it as a cash price, and the choice given to the Sita to make, if she is going to make it in a part payment 50,000, that we call it as a hire purchase price. Hire purchase price will be usually above the cash price, because the hire vendor is going to charge extra amount for the delay payment. So the purchaser has to be ready to make extra payment for delaying it. That will be calculation differ from method to method. Calculation of interest, that we call it as a hire charges also, or we call it as an interest. So this is the concept regarding to the hire purchase system. Thank you.